Aromatic Chat, the podcast that introduces you to registered, clinical, and certified aromatherapists around the world. I'm your host, Melissa. I'm a holistic life coach and a registered aromatherapist. Join me every other week as we chat with aromatherapists and hear about their aromatic journeys and how they use essential oils in their lives and in their businesses. Hey friends, welcome to podcast episode number 31, Aromatic Chat with Amanda Lattin. Amanda was one of my teachers at the American College of Healthcare Sciences, and she is the head of the Aromatherapy program. And she has an amazing story that I cannot wait for you to hear. So let's get started.
I'm in Zoom all the time. I think this is my 5th Zoom today.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
I don't think we've really accounted fully for the effect of 5 video calls in a day, something like that,
We're sitting here and staring at a screen all day.
Yeah.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I'm glad we finally were able to find a time that worked. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time.
Oh, you too.
And everything that you're doing in the aromatic world. I know a lot of people don't know Amanda Lattin, but those of us at the ACHS definitely know who you are. Even if we're not in the aromatherapy program, we know who Amanda Lattin is. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got started in aromatherapy, because I know your background wasn't specifically aromatherapy. Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, well, thank you, Melissa. Thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know, I am a professor in the aromatherapy program chair at American College of Healthcare Sciences, and I've been very blessed to be with them for a long time now. So I have a little family of ACHS, so to speak. Before that, I taught at other aromatherapy schools. And before that, I taught chemistry. And so that was my professional background, was chemistry before coming into aromatherapy. And when I started learning about aromatherapy, I wasn't really thinking of going into it for a profession necessarily. I was interested in it for myself. Early on, I had experiences like when I was an undergraduate college, I had experiences with complementary and alternative medicine really supporting me in my health when I wasn't able to get completely well with just standard medical care. I'd always been raised with a holistic health mindset and culture, but I had never really been exposed to it as a profession before then, meeting people who had gone to school and were professional CAM providers. And it really got me interested in that field. And after graduation, I decided instead of pursuing a PhD in chemistry that I was going to move to Portland, Oregon and go to naturopathic medical school. While I was completing a few prerequisites that I needed to finish, life happened again. And I ended up instead getting my master's in teaching from Lewis and Clark College with a focus on chemistry. So I really instead dove into understanding how people learn, and specifically in the sciences and in chemistry. And then I started teaching chemistry after that. And my son was born not too long after that, which was also another unexpected life adventure. And it was a very difficult pregnancy and birth. I didn't recover well. When he was 2, that's when I myself decided to go to school at ACHS for aromatherapy and herbal medicine. So I was kind of returning back to my original plan of studying natural medicine, but I was also reaching out for myself, where I was like, okay, I have tried to get better for 2 years and I'm still in pain and I'm still not doing well. So I need to start learning about this myself. And I had actually studied with Kurt Schnabel before that, studied aromatherapy with him and Manuka before coming to ACHS. And the aromatherapy had greatly supported me in a way that other things just had not. That's what inspired me to go ahead and get formal training in it. Dr. Schnabel and I really connected with him because we both have a background in chemistry. So I think there was a lot of camaraderie in the way that we looked at things. And I was always very comfortable with the language and the concepts around the essential oil constituents. And, all of my other education had always been formal education. So that's what I decided to pursue. And everyone around me could really tell, something had shifted for the better. And, it was two questions. You smell so good. What is that? And you look so much better. What happened? That's kind of how my practice got started, was just people asking for help. That was a while ago now. And it's just fostered into a whole aromatherapy and herbal medicine consulting practice. And I've been very blessed to get to work with my clients. I've been very blessed to get to collaborate with other healthcare providers in the Pacific Northwest and to get to teach at different schools. It's just blossomed into a whole career. And, it's funny because sometimes I reflect back on, those choices, those things that were happening in my early 20s and how you could have never predicted what would come out of that, and it's just amazing to me that I get to do what I do. I think aromatherapy is fascinating. You never know all of it. And what we know about aromatherapy has just changed and grown exponentially since I've been involved in the field. That's a little bit about me and how I got into all of this. And I still use aromatherapy to support myself. Yeah, that's me. That's my story.
I love that it was so personal for you, because the why matters so much.
Yeah, I think it's really important to come from a place of compassion. I agree with you. I feel like people have been able to come to my practice or my classes and feel safe there, to learn, to feel safe, to heal, to feel safe, to express themselves because of the experience that I've had in life. And that's where I'm coming from in my work. I've never felt like it was coming from an outside perspective. I think that we're all always learning, and I'm always learning. So yeah, I agree. It is kind of different though than, I'm intending to, foster this career, right? As opposed to it evolving out of your life experiences. But it's very rich. It creates a very rich foundation.
Yeah, I agree. So your experience with aromatherapy is a little bit different than a lot of the people that I've spoken with, because many of them are trying to build their businesses. But as a professor, you have a little bit of a different take on aromatherapy. So normally I would ask, what would be the thing that you see the most in your aromatherapy practice? But I think the question now would be more, how are you seeing aromatherapy influence your students?
That's a great question. So I do still see people for my work, but you're right. I do get to see another perspective that other people may not see. People come to study aromatherapy at ACHS for many different reasons. Some of them are just like me, where they're just studying it because they're seeking help for themselves. They want to be more empowered for their own self-care. They want to be empowered to feel that they can, support their family members. And they may live in communities where that's not readily accessible. And so they're learning it for themselves. Other people are very much so, maybe their lives have been touched by holistic health, and now they want to open a business to be able to support others. Still others are already working professionals in a health-related or science-related field, and they're looking to add to their skill set. Some people are researching, and in their research, they realized, I need to know more about essential oils. And so they pursue getting like a certificate or a graduate certificate in aromatherapy so that they can better design the research that they're working on. I think something that I share, that's unique about aromatherapy programs is the diversity of who is in the programs. You don't have one type of student. You don't have students with the same career goal, professional goal, or educational goals. There's always a lot of diversity. And I think that that's reflective of aromatherapy. I think that shows us how diverse aromatherapy is, because people are drawn to it for different reasons. They do different things with it. They view it in different ways. And they're all right. All of them are all right, and it's all can be used. So I really try to hold that diverse perspective in my courses, in my programs, while still tying it to scientific evidence. And, programs are very science-based, but definitely diverse in terms of how people interact with it, why they're there, what they want to do with it. That's my best answer. It's not uniform.
No, that's amazing. And that's one of the things that I keep coming across in my interviews is that we all come at it a little bit different. There's different reasons that we love essential oils. There's different reasons that we pursue aromatherapy. So you're right on target. And in your practice, what are the things that you see?
Well, I think that more than anything, people end up in my office because they've had something that they've tried to heal from that they just haven't been able to. Many times it's mental, emotional patterns that they have not been able to shift that are now also tied to some sort of physical pattern with them. And they usually, because of where I live, are also seeing other wonderful, talented practitioners who are supporting them in all the areas that I can't. So I'm usually a piece of the pie with that process in them. So we're using aromatherapy quite a bit to help with mental or emotional patterns. But then skin support is a big part of why people come to see me, and that ranges quite a bit. And pain patterns, I think, are also another one. But like I said, they're usually pretty closely tied to I had this big mental or emotional shift happen in my life. And I also started having this pain at the same time. And they just have this sense that while the physical aspects are being addressed by the other practitioners, they're seeing the other piece of it isn't. Sometimes people, maybe they bought one essential oil or bought an aromatherapy product and they noticed it really affected them and they wanted to learn more about that. So I would say those are the big categories, but then everybody's story is a little bit different, where those patterns are tagged in with them, tied in with them is always different. So, it could be like somebody's knee that still hurts after an accident 10 years ago, but they're also, working through their daily emotional patterns from childhood abuse. Everybody's story is so different.
Yeah, you bring up something that's been in the forefront of everything that I'm doing right now is that mind-body connection. And also that aromatherapy is one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Why people get sent to me is different too. I mean, we can't overlook the amazing antibacterial effects of essential oils. Like they have a role. And, sometimes what I'm doing is creating something as simple as here's this steam inhalation you're going to do, for a sinus issue, right? And, that's also part of the work as well. And I think aromatherapy requires us to have that range in ourselves because essential oils never are just doing one thing. Even if we're deciding this is why we're using it, they have a broad range of effects. So you kind of have to always hold that in your vision when you're looking at something.
Switch gears a little bit. I follow you on your social medias and you have a wonderful project that I would love for you to share about, your sidewalk project.
Oh, okay. So my sidewalk project really stemmed from things I've been working on over the last several years. And something I had noticed was a trend that I had noticed where people were always telling me how they felt like they needed to get away. They needed to get far away from where they lived, far away from where people were, far away from cities to find plants that they considered to be healing. Let's just put it in a very general sense, or just in general, where if I could just get away from here, meaning where they lived, where people were, then I would be able to heal. It really got me thinking about how plants, as we know, if we've studied essential oils, they're responding to their environment. I was really inspired to begin showing that the plant life and the plant language that we are around in our living space offers healing support for us. Even if it's not something that we would want to harvest and eat or harvest and distill, that healing space is still present for us pretty much anywhere we look. And I really felt like that was a very empowering perspective to explore if we could begin to see our urban landscapes as places of healing, where we will see all these plant allies that are there working so hard with us, right? And that they live here with us. They're not leaving, they're here. They're here with us. And all of that kind of got started one day when I was waiting for my son to get done with school. And I was like, okay, I got here 15 minutes early. I'm going to go for a little walk while I'm waiting for school to let out. And I came across this huge patch of violets that were growing in between the road and the sidewalk, that little strip of grass. It's usually grass, right? And I was just overcome by these violets. It smelled amazing. They were just creating this entire micro environment right there by the sidewalk. I literally sat down next to them on the sidewalk and was like, oh my gosh, violet is a beautiful medicinal herb. It's, the flowers and the leaves, and it's just a beautiful medicinal herb. And it just struck me I didn't need to leave the city to find that. It was literally right there. And it was like a light bulb went off in my inside of me, This is not to discount the value of going into the wilderness, by the way, but it was just like a reverse perspective. What is this that's here with us here in these, and if we could begin to see our living space, our urban spaces as these powerful places, how would that change how we felt in them? What would we receive from noticing that? And because, it is a lot about perspective, if you're not expecting to see anything supportive, then you might miss it. Right. So I held this idea for a while and I wrote about it a little bit. And I tinkered with, this idea. And then during the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start making videos. We're just going to start doing the sidewalk project. My son Noah helped me film the first few, and then I lost my camera crew. And since then, I've just been doing it on my own. And that's how Sidewalk Project got started. I did not know if other people were going to like it or not. I just decided I was going to do it. People have seemed to really enjoy engaging with them. And I've seen other people start kind of exploring their spaces in that way too, which, of course, is a blessing to see that come back around. So now everybody around me is like, you need to do one on this and you need to do one on that. I'm like, oh, we're starting to see it, we're starting to see it. So that's Sidewalk Project in a nutshell. Me laying down on a sidewalk, visiting with violets one afternoon.
That's amazing though. And you bring up a great point about perspective. If we're not looking for it, we're definitely not going to see it. Our reticular activating system won't allow us to see it.
Yeah. It was just something that was in my heart for my clients and my students too. I wanted them to realize how much support they had accessible for free right where they were. Portland, of course, we're very lucky. We have a lot of plants here in Portland, but I was visiting my family and there was all kinds of Sidewalk Project opportunities. I could have stayed busy down there the whole summer. It's a very interesting concept to explore. I think too, I was looking at Southern folk medicine and in other, I'm sure in other practices as well. We kind of look when there's a lot of a certain plant in a space, it's like I said, it's creating that microenvironment, or it could be reflecting what's needed in that area. So it was looking at the different combinations of plants that were growing in a particular area. And sometimes when you're wildcrafting too, if you see one plant, you're probably going to see another. And so kind of looking at, okay, what are we seeing here being created in this microenvironment? Kind of looking at these plants that decided to be friends and grow together, or were brought together by birds and squirrels and, whoever else helped plant them, right? I think that's the next layer down, starting to see that and then seeing well, how is this helping me? How am I shifting? How am I responding to this? That's next level nerdy, but pretty fun if you're into that kind of thing.
I think most of the people who listen to the podcast are definitely into this kind of thing. So
okay, good.
Yeah, so I will share all of the links, and definitely you'll want to follow Amanda on Instagram because that's where she's sharing her sidewalk projects for sure.
Yes. Instagram and my Terracina Facebook account, but the Instagram's probably the easiest one to find them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we'll be sharing all the links, easy for everybody to just click and follow. You'll definitely want to do that. Without sharing too much personal information, about a client. I would love to hear one of your favorite client stories, because I think, when we have these amazing experiences with our clients, it just reignites our passion for what we're doing with aromatherapy.
Oh, that is a hard question. I've talked about this particular client in other interviews. She was referred to me by a naturopathic doctor here in the Portland area. She was in her 60s and she had had a stroke a few years prior and had been under care from her naturopathic doctor and then other physicians since then. Obviously she had recovered, but she was still, having to do a lot to support her health. Well, she had had a recurrent sinus infection for over 6 months when she got referred to me. And she'd already done several courses of antibiotics and herbs, but it had also been creating pretty much a constant headache for her that she had not been able to get rid of. And so her naturopathic doctor said, I think you should go see Amanda and see if there's any aromatherapy that you could use to help you with this. I remember when I met her for the first session, I could just tell she was just really at a low energy point. She was just really worn out with this. I gave her aromatherapy in the office because I like to see how people are going to interact with the oils before I create, their actual support plan. When she left my office, she said her headache was almost completely gone. And that was just within an hour. And she had had this headache for months. I sent her home. We were doing steam inhalations or sinus support. She had to do them for a while. I got this ecstatic email from her before her next appointment even, was that her headaches had diminished so much. She said she rated them on only a scale of a 2. And she says, and sometimes I don't even get one until later in the day. So she was having periods of time with no headache. She wasn't feeling any sinus pressure anymore. But something that was completely unexpected was in her right leg, she had had a very limited range of motion in her ankle. It also inhibited her gait. And she had to do exercises every day for this. So of course she's noticing her range of motion. And she says, my range of motion in my ankle has huge, I was not working with her around this at all. It was not in any way meant to be a part of the aromatherapy, but her range of motion in her right ankle improved. And I've been seeing her now for years and she's maintained that improvement. I have I can't link that to the aromatherapy in any linear fashion, but that for me was just so special to see someone who had already been under so much care and it was obviously suffering and was just in just this low place. And to see the aromatherapy bring her relief so quickly, and then to see it help her body come out of this chronic pattern. You could see like a spark came back in her eye where she had hope again. Of course, she was overjoyed at the improvement in her range of motion, which like, again, I can't take credit for, but it was just one of those moments. And there's been others, but that's one that just stands out in my mind. I think other really special moments are getting to do aromatherapy with expectant mothers or people who are recovering from pregnancy. And it's so intimate and such a special time. And to think that you got to be a vessel to help them during that special time. Those are also really special moments.
Yeah. Well, and especially for you coming from where you came from with your pregnancy, to be able to help those mothers. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you bring up with your headache client, you bring up a great point that, it's all connected. And yes, I'm dealing with a headache and that's why I came to you. But now that my headache has subsided, my body can actually focus on repairing the things that I needed work on. So it's all connected. I think that's a beautiful story that just shows that.
It was very cool. And, you can't deny it when they come in with that and, an hour and 15 minutes later, she's like, oh my gosh, my headache's almost completely gone. Oh, it makes it all worth it right then.
Well, and for people who've never dealt with those chronic headaches, they really don't understand, but I've been there. I was in a collision, had a headache for a full year. I had learned how to function with a chronic headache. I started seeing my chiropractor, and I can't tell you exactly when the experience happened, but I remember I woke up one day without a headache.
Oh, her email, like I printed it out. I have it somewhere. Like it was pure. She was overjoyed. Yeah. I am getting better. This is helping me. Thank you so much. I mean, wow. It's important to see aromatherapy in that context, but we're not trying to do everything for everybody with it. But when it's used in its role, in its appropriate way, it can be a very effective tool.
So now we're at the point where I ask, what are your top 3 favorite essential oils?
That's a really hard question. I just want to say that. So I will share with you my moment and why I'm going to put this one at the top of my list. Geranium, I think, was the first essential oil I ever used. And I was sitting in class with Dr. Schnallbaugh, and he was passing around samples of essential oils just on the little perfume strips. Okay. And I had a hypertensive trapezius muscle for 2 years. Like, you could see it was visibly higher than the other one. He was talking about the pain relieving properties of geranium essential oil. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, well, let's test her out. And I just put the perfume strip under my blouse and just rested it on my shoulder. And I don't know, 15 minutes later, I suddenly noticed, oh, my shoulder was not as tight. I mean, we're talking tight to the point where, I couldn't really turn my neck very well. And I just remember sitting in class and feeling the tension leaving my shoulder, leaving my trap. And I pulled the perfume strip out and I looked at it and I was like, I think you're my new friend, And so geranium has always been an ally of mine. I use it a lot. It's a fantastic essential oil, and it's very low toxicity essential oil. I know it has a really strong aroma that some people, it's like a love-hate relationship with the geranium, but that was my first essential oil that really just provided me support. And so I'll have to put geranium on the list. I've been really into white grapefruit. I usually would buy pink grapefruit, and I got some white grapefruit essential oil. And I've really been enjoying that aroma. It's very invigorating, mentally, just really uplifting. So I've been enjoying white grapefruit essential oil. So I guess I'll just have to say that that's my fave 2021 essential oil. And I've also been using Manuka essential oil quite a bit lately. I'll mark that down as number 3. I don't know if those are my favorites, though.
Thank you for sharing.
This actually might smell good together now that I'm thinking about
it. Right.
I'll have to try that.
We'll have to practice that. We'll have to play around with that a little bit. Yeah. So what are you working on right now that's got you really excited?
Well, I guess my sidewalk project on a personal level, that's been something that's been bubbling up in my work for a while. And I've really enjoyed making those videos over the last year. And I hope I get to keep building on that. I hope that that concept is something I get to share more and maybe even teach through. So that's got me really excited. And my day-to-day work is, very inspirational. I was very blessed to get elected to the AIA board this year. And so that's been a very new experience and another level of participation. And I feel very honored to get to represent other aromatherapists and try to provide opportunities, make things work better, all of that. And, so I'm blessed to get to do that type of volunteer work. And then, of course, everything that we're doing at ACHS, all of our programs and the ongoing work to make them as good as we can make them. I think we try to always push the bar and service our students and hear their stories and, be of service to them. That's my passion.
That's amazing. So how can people find you if they love what you're doing and they want to learn more or connect with you in some way?
Well, it just depends on what you want to find me for. If you want to find me for ACHS, you can go to achs.edu, and I am on the faculty listing on the website, or Amanda Lattin at achs.edu. If you want to find me through my consulting practice, it's terracinaherbals.com, or my email is amanda@terracinaherbals.com. And then if you want to find me for the AIA board, you can go to the AIA website. That's Alliance of International Aromatherapists website. And we have our emails, our contact listed on the board of directors page. So I guess those are my 3 main contact points.
And if people are interested in your sidewalk project, where would you recommend they find that?
That's my Instagram. Terracina Herbals is my handle. And there's also a Terracina Facebook page. And I'm only one of 2 in the world. There's just me and the city of Terracina in Italy. It's not hard to find. There's really only the 2 of us, and we're friends with each other on Facebook, which I think is fantastic. So I have an endorsement. I'm allowed to use the name.
That's fabulous. As far as people finding you to work with you, do you do only face-to-face consultations? Do you work with people online? How does that work?
I do virtual consultations. Yes. 30-minute or 1 hour consultations. Usually the first time I meet with someone is a 90-minute intake, and it's a little bit higher of a price point, but you can book a virtual appointment with me. I will be going back to in-person sessions soon at my studio. I have a studio with my partner who's an acupuncturist.
Excellent. That's awesome. So here's an opportunity for you to just share whatever might be heavy on your heart or something inspiring, anything at all that you want to leave our listeners with.
I think it's important to be authentic with yourself. And I always encourage everyone to listen to their intuition and to follow it, even if you're not quite sure you understand it all the way. That is really important. And I try to do that in my own work. I really try to be authentic. I try to, speak up even when my voice shakes, and to listen to my intuition and to be brave and to do things that I don't think I can do. I think that leaves us a door open to be useful in ways that we really can't imagine. Everybody that works in aromatherapy has taken that risk to do some, go down the path that is less trodden. And just would say, I encourage you to continue to do that. You're making a difference and you're touching lives even when you don't realize it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and coming on to Aromatic Chat. I always look forward to seeing you, whether it's just through social media or if I get to see you in person at events. I always look forward to it.
You too.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda.
All right. Thank you.
Hey friend, I started this podcast so that you, my listener, would have an opportunity to hear from all of these amazing aromatherapists. My hope is that through this series, you will find the aromatherapist that fits with you and what you may be going through. Aromatherapy, as Amanda said, is a wonderful supportive modality that works as part of an overall health plan. I hope you'll take a moment to peruse all of the episodes and hear from the other aromatherapists that I have been so honored to chat with. Please feel free to share Aromatic Chat with your friends and family. I would be so thrilled if you would subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Amanda and I touched on how everything in our body is connected. If you're struggling, aromatherapy may be one modality that could be the path that opens you up for healing. If you enjoy Aromatic Chat, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcast. You can find me, your life coach and registered aromatherapist, on the web at lemonbalmcoaching.com. I will see you next time with our next episode. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.